Hey guys, for today's lesson, I want to look at different types of poetry. Now, when I first decided that this would be a good idea, I started by Googling the types of poetry and I realized that there are a lot. So I decided that it would be best if we just stick with four types of poems. And the reason for choosing these four specific types of poems is that these are the types of poems you're most likely going to see in high school. The first type of poem I want to look at is called sonnets. Sonnets are a very old style of poetry, and Shakespeare was famous for writing them. The key thing to remember with sonnets is that they contain 14 lines. They also usually have a specific rhyme scheme and a specific rhythm called iambic pentameter, but I'm going to save that for high school. For now, I just want you to remember that they contain 14 lines. An example of a sonnet would be Sonnet 116 by William Shakespeare. The second type of poem would be haikus. Haikus originated in Japan and are usually super short. Actually, they're always super short, and that's because they have to follow three rules. The first rule is that a haiku can only contain 17 syllables. The second rule is that it can only be 3 lines. And lastly, the lines have to be in a certain order. The first line will have 5 syllables. The second line will have 7 syllables, and then the third line will have 5 syllables again, for a total of 17. Now, there is one more rule to haikus that we don't always follow here in America, but they are supposed to be about two opposite ideas. For example, in this poem called By the Old Temple. By the old temple, peach blossoms, a man treading rice. So the first 2 lines of the poem, you think of an old temple. The second line is about peach blossoms. So you picture something beautiful and relaxing. But then the third line is about a man treading rice, which is really hard work. The second poem is called The Lamp Once Out. The lamp once out, cool stars enter the window frame. So this poem is contrasting the idea of lamps, which is our unnatural light that we use in the evenings, compared to stars, which would be the natural light. And you can only really see the natural light once you turn off your own. The third type of poems are acrostics. Acrostics are usually silly and fun, and the rule here is that the first letter of each line will spell out a word. Now, the example that I chose is not simple and fun, and Edgar Allan Poe wrote an acrostic, so they definitely don't always have to be silly and fun. This poem is called Nuggets. Nuggets of gold, money and authority, ultimate luxury, status, and handymen. Gathered he through all bloody means, giving not a damn to humane feelings. Equipoise is but nature's patent strategy. Tamed is he by crippling ailments. So sad, spends life like a frozen vegetable. Now, if you really dig into that poem, you can find some pretty dark themes. What I really want you to take away here, though, is that the first letter of each line spells out nuggets. Lastly, are ballads. Now, the word ballad you have definitely heard before. Songs are described as ballads. There's a movie called Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. But what really is a ballad? Simply put, a ballad is a poem that has a story to it. And you have definitely read some ballads. Annabel Lee and The Raven are both ballads. Now, ballads do have rules. For example, ballads are only supposed to have 4 lines per stanza, and they're supposed to have an ABAB rhyme scheme. But people break those rules all the time, so most ballads don't really follow them. The key when looking for a ballad is really to look and see if it's a long poem with a story. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page. I put 4 poems down there. I want you to read the poems and I want you to assign them to the correct type of poem. And then tomorrow, be ready because you are going to write your own poem.